Some criminals use guns, others use masks. But the most dangerous ones? They use charm, confidence, and a pen. Today we're diving into the story of one of history's most brilliant con artists. A man so smooth, so bold, that he sold the Eiffel Tower not once but twice. It was 1925 in Paris, a city still recovering from the Great War, pulsing with jazz clubs, art salons, and opportunity. And there was Victor Lustig. Born in 1890 in what is now the Czech Republic, Lustig was already well known in European criminal circles by the time he arrived in France. Fluent in multiple languages, impeccably dressed, and incredibly persuasive, he didn't look like a criminal. He looked like a diplomat, which is exactly what he wanted people to think. One day, while flipping through a newspaper in his Paris hotel room, Lustig read a short article about how the Eiffel Tower, now 36 years old, had become rusty, expensive to maintain, and was the subject of heated government debate. Lustig didn't just see news, he saw opportunity. Lustig sprang into action. Using a forged government letterhead, he crafted fake documents identifying himself as the Deputy Director General of the French Ministry of Posts and Telegraphs, an agency plausible enough to oversee public structures. He booked a private suite at the luxurious Hôtel de Crillon, one of Paris' most prestigious venues, and sent formal invitations to 6 of the city's top scrap metal dealers. The message was simple but urgent. The government was secretly planning to dismantle the Eiffel Tower and sell it for scrap. Because it was politically sensitive, the meeting would be confidential. When the dealers arrived, they were greeted with official-looking papers, charts, maintenance budgets, and even a personal tour of the tower grounds, all arranged by Lustig. Among the attendees was André Poisson, a somewhat insecure but ambitious businessman. He feared he didn't have the connections or reputation of the other dealers and was desperate to win the bid. Lustig read him perfectly. After days of staged negotiations, Lustig pulled Poisson aside and whispered that a bribe could help secure the government's favor. Poisson took the bait. He paid both the fake bribe and the full purchase amount. Within 24 hours, Lustig disappeared with the money, en route to Vienna. After his first success, Lustig could have retired. But greed, or maybe the thrill, pulled him back. Just a few weeks later, he returned to Paris and began the same scheme all over again. Same hotel, same forged papers, same story. This time, though, one of the invited scrap dealers grew suspicious. He contacted authorities before any deal was made. Realizing the police were closing in, Lustig fled France before he could be arrested. But this wasn't the end of his criminal career. It was just the beginning of his next chapter. Lustig set his sights on the United States, and there his scams became more elaborate and more profitable. One of his most famous inventions was the money box, a suitcase-sized machine he claimed could duplicate real currency. He demonstrated it by inserting a real $100 bill, turning some gears, and, after a delay, producing a second identical $100 bill. The secret? He had preloaded the box with real money for demonstrations. By the time his victims realized they had been conned, Lustig was long gone. His most audacious American target? Al Capone. Al Capone, the infamous mob boss of Chicago, was a man you didn't cross. But Victor Lustig wasn't just anyone. Knowing Capone's reputation and the risk, Lustig approached him not with a scam, but a business proposal. He claimed to need a $50,000 investment for a surefire deal. He promised double the return in 60 days. Capone, intrigued and curious, gave him the money. Lustig placed it in a safe deposit box and didn't touch it. 2 months later, he returned to Capone, apologizing. The deal had failed, he said, and he was returning the full $50,000. Capone was stunned by the honesty. Then Lustig asked if he could at least get $5,000 for being straight with him. Capone obliged. Lustig walked away with $5 grand and his life. Lustig's downfall came from greed and fingerprints. In the early 1930s, he began producing counterfeit U.S. currency at such scale that it caught the attention of federal authorities. For years, he evaded arrest, changing names, cities, and disguises. But in 1935, the Secret Service finally tracked him down in New York. He was arrested and charged with counterfeiting. He escaped once, by jumping out a window of the courthouse. But he was caught again. This time, there was no escape. Victor Lustig was sentenced to 20 years in prison. He was sent to Alcatraz, the most secure federal prison in the United States at the time, where he became inmate number 300. Gone were the tailored suits, the fine hotels, and the lavish confidence games. Lustig spent his final years behind bars, still well-mannered, still mysterious. In 1947, he died of complications related to pneumonia. Even in his final days, he was remembered by fellow inmates and guards as courteous, soft-spoken, and strangely likable. Victor Lustig didn't need violence. He didn't rely on brute force, guns, or getaway cars. He relied on the one weapon most powerful of all: persuasion. He sold a 10,000-ton iron tower. He conned a crime lord. He walked away from some of the boldest scams in history with nothing but a suitcase and a smile. To this day, no one knows how much money he truly made, or how many scams he pulled off. But one thing is certain: he remains one of the greatest con artists the world has ever seen. What do you think? Was Victor Lustig a criminal genius or a dangerous fraud? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more stories where charm turns into chaos, subscribe to Criminal Chessboard. What made Victor Lustig so successful wasn't just the scale of his crimes. It was how easily people trusted him. He mastered the psychology of persuasion. He spoke softly, listened carefully, and dressed immaculately. Everything about him projected confidence, credibility, and calm. He followed a personal set of rules for every con. Among them, 1. Be a patient listener. 2. Never look bored. 3. Never boast. 4. Wait for the other person to reveal their weaknesses, and then use it. Lustig understood something simple but powerful. Most people don't want to be fooled, but they do want to believe. Even after his death, Lustig's story lived on. His exploits have inspired books, documentaries, and even fictional characters. Some say he was the real-life inspiration behind characters like Neil Caffrey in White Collar, or Frank Abagnale in Catch Me If You Can. In an era where scams are digital and anonymous, Lustig's old-school elegance feels almost theatrical. But beneath the charm was a simple truth: the con only works because we want to believe. And Lustig, better than anyone, knew exactly what we wanted to hear. Among Lustig's most devious inventions was the Romanian money box. It looked impressive: polished mahogany, brass cranks, and fine engravings. Inside, a complex mechanism hummed and ticked, and the illusion began. Here's how it worked. He'd load it with 2 genuine $100 bills, inserting them into opposite ends of the box. Then in front of his target, he'd insert a third, real bill, the seed. They'd wait. The machine buzzed and clanked as if chemically duplicating the currency. And after a suspenseful pause, another real $100 bill emerged. It was magic. It was proof. But what they didn't know was this: the box only had 2 bills preloaded. After that, nothing but blank paper. By the time the victim realized they had been conned, Lustig was long gone, with thousands in payment for the box. Some chased him, most didn't. After all, they were trying to get rich by cheating the system. And that's exactly what Lustig counted on. Victor Lustig didn't invent greed. He just polished it, dressed it in silk, and sold it back to us for a profit.